Welcome to the Toekenz Podcast. I'm Iris, CEO and co-founder of Toekenz. I'm joined today by Julian Kocher and Germann Vesterman. Welcome, Julian and Germann.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for being here. Let's just jump right in with an intro of you both. You're both valued members of the Toekenz team, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear from you.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Julian Kocher, New York, born and raised. I spent 6 years in the Navy, actually, as a nuclear electrician. Following that, I got my bachelor's and master's in computer science, studying AI and blockchain. Worked as an engineer at Circle, which is obviously USDC, for a couple of years, which brought me here. So I'm very excited to see all the things that are going to come out of this as well.
So that's Julian, our head of DevOps, and now we'll turn it over to Germann, our head of tech.
How you doing, everyone? My name is Germann Vesterman. I'm head of technology for Digital Prime. Also a Brooklyn native, but the recent transplant to Florida, the sunny state. So over 25 years in the IT space. I've been into computing and networking probably from VIC-20 days. So that kind of dates me pretty badly. So I started on Wall Street. I integrated broker-dealers into smaller order execution systems. Pretty much worked all over the industry, multiple sectors, corporate, state, government. I'll give you some notable integrations: CIA, Bethesda Naval, Chrysler. Moved over to business integrations and compliance about 5 years ago. So SOC 2, HIPAA, FDA, finished compliance for 2 publicly traded biomedical firms. I came on board to handle the tech stack and compliance best practices for Digital Prime. So we finished our SOC 2 compliance audit, beefing up the security stack, internal team. Julian is a part of it, of course, and getting customer support for Digital Prime and now Toekenz. So very excited to get on board, and I've loved crypto since it melted a bunch of my GPUs. So, yep.
Awesome. Well, happy to have you, Germann. And you're both startup veterans. You know what it's like to get an idea to execution and to release. Julian, you're a literal veteran, and I'm sure there are some parallels there with your experience in the military. Let's start with some startup basics. So if someone has an idea and they want to bring it to market, what are some tips that you have for them, or life lessons that you've learned along your way? We'll start with you, Germann.
Oh, well, sure. So, I mean, I'd say for startup basics, start compliance early. I know it's you're doing a million things, you're running all over the place. Get your documentation in place now. So that means employee documentation, company equipment documentation. Get your company equipment locked down. It's never too early to start writing your policies. So there's plenty of free sources available online. There's a lot of boilerplated docs, and you can customize them from there. You don't have to hire a lawyer. Just get those in place, even if no one's seeing. They're for you down the road, and it will protect you. So keep records of meetings, vendors, new hires, business expense, every little thing, and don't worry about it. Let the accountants fix it at the end. So that's my beginning takeaways. I'm sure that there's more. I'll let Julian.
I love it, Germann. Let's just start with the most exciting stuff, right? Compliance.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely some exciting stuff down the road, but compliance, it's an often overlooked thing, and then down the road, people are scrambling when an auditor comes in. I mean, God forbid, but yes, it happens.
Right. Have you actually been through an audit? I hear it's
Sure.
like a root canal.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's definitely not fun. But you will be thanking yourself, your past self, for putting some of those safety checks in place. So yeah, I mean, I could go on to something more exciting, I think.
So I think that's a good place to start, and very much right up your alley. Let's hear from Julian.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with German. That stuff is really important to get down pat. For a lot of people, it may be kind of difficult because they're not really even sure what direction to go in or what kind of compliance they need. So German mentioned this, but like there's a lot of resources out there. You can ask for help. You you know, obviously entrepreneurship has been really, really popular over the last, well, especially the last 3 years with COVID, but over the last 10 years, honestly, students in school doing all this kind of stuff. So it's definitely a lot of stuff out there. My number one, I guess, takeaway from if you have an idea and you want to go after it is to ask for help. Just start asking people. Don't be afraid to share your idea. Maybe you'll feel like, oh, this is like my personal thing and I need to have it and I need to keep it safe. But honestly, part of building a startup is like sharing what you have with the world. Like, how are you going to do that if you keep it to yourself, right? You want to talk about it. You want to build excitement, not only for yourself, but for others. And then doing that gives you like the first step on, well, how do I turn this into, something that I can actually use or someone else can use? You know what I mean? So asking for help is huge. There's a lot of resources out there. There are schools, school programs if you're going to school. Um, if you're not going to school, there are accelerators, there are boot camps, there are free tutorials. Uh, it's definitely out there, but you have to want it and you have to be really open. That's what I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little counterintuitive, right? You'd think, I have this amazing idea and you want to keep it close to the chest. But really, that's where ideas kind of tend to fizzle out or even die. And they really thrive and live if you're sharing them with people, if you're bouncing them off of creative people, smart people, people with more experience than you. But what is it about us that makes us just want to protect an idea?
I mean, because it's ours, I think. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like you came up with this, and it's like your baby, and then maybe you're like, oh, if this happens, we'll do this, and if oh, if the market goes like this, and then we'll do that, and it'll grow in this area, and then we'll have all these opportunities. And the second, other people may come in and say, oh, I really like this idea, you should do this with it, or even, oh, I like your idea, but I think it would be better if it was like this. It can be very like scary for you. You're like, this is my idea. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do this, but in the end, you have to remember you're building something for likely for other people, and you want to use it too. But the point is that you want to share it with everyone.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah.
That's right. You want to share with everyone, and to get that feedback on your idea can be terrifying, but also is so important, especially if you want it to actually be usable and or entertaining for other users, like what we're building, of course, with Toekenz. There's been a lot of collaboration around bringing it to light, and it's amazing to look back and see how it's evolved over time, not only since its inception, but even since the two of you joining the team and adding your own spins and your own touches to the Toekenz product. What are some other basics, maybe not tactically, but from a personal perspective? What does a startup founder, an entrepreneur need in order to really be successful in bringing an idea to light?
Um, so your cost of time is very important. Your intelligence is worth money. So try to work uninterrupted on your business as much as possible. You're going to want to do 50 things at once. Avoid that. It takes about 20 minutes to refocus every time you do a stop start. So anytime there's an 8 hour or 12 hour or 24 hour block of time, it's very valuable. You're going to be in a groove. You don't want to interrupt that groove. It's going to be flowing, and it's going to be 10 times harder to get back into that groove. And again, you want to micromanage. It's your baby. But I have to say this, and a lot of times it's going to lead to mistakes. You're not there to be jack of all trades. You're going to want to be jack of all trades, but uh, you're just going to do a lot of things poorly. You'll know a lot of things, but you're not going to be doing them well. Focus on what you know, become a master at it, and that's what you focus on. That's what you bring to your business, Everything else could be filled by, like Julian said, people on the outside. People are there to help. They want to help. It feels good to help. So that's a huge thing. And I'll point this out. Aim high when you are making money for your business. Try to get all the money. Like, just, if you see an opportunity and people don't see it in the marketplace, take your chips, slide them in. It doesn't, I mean, this doesn't apply to like investments or, some ventures that somebody, this isn't like a Ralph Cramden, Ed Norton like scheme that comes up, So if you can control it, if you and you have a gut feeling and you can control this venture, make the move.
Yeah.
Very important.
It's tantamount to just your commitment, right? You put your money, your time, and your intelligence into something because that's how you make your bet on yourself. Interesting to note the two things you mentioned, like distraction-free time, laser focus, and also asking for help. Two things that are kind of hard in a remote work environment, which we all obviously are in right now, right? Recording, zooming in to record, Zencastering in to record this podcast, and every day for our meetings. But it's so easy to get distracted when you can just quickly go and put a load in the wash, or take a load out of the dryer, or pop up and see the kiddos when they get home from school, or go and pick up the kiddos from school. It's so easy to be isolated in your process when it's you in your bedroom or it's you in your office, when what you need is to ask for help or is to bounce an idea off of somebody. So how do you manage this in a remote work environment?
I mean, I can try to take this. So one thing you also mentioned on top of this was commitment, and like how I think this kind of relates in a remote work environment is that you need to be very organized, right? And you're right what you said before, like it's so easy to get distracted or to pop off and do something, on the side while you're working in the middle of the day. And that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, right? But it's more about your process and what's right for you, right? One of the things that I think remote work unlocked for us is the ability to be flexible, right? And, some people may not have the fortitude to maintain this flexibility while still maintaining high efficiency, right? The organized workplace kind of made us do that, so it helped a lot. But now, obviously, we live in a different world, so it's up to us, right? And it depends on how successful you want to be, I guess, in how rigid you are with yourself. So that doesn't mean you can't. I mean, I cook lunch once in a while, right? Like instead of ordering something or this and that, and I just make it work in the sense that, like, hey, I have some time. I just finished something, pretty sizable, let's say. I need 20 minutes just to unwind. If I was in an office environment, I could be going for a walk. I could go out to, I would go out to lunch to go get something. I wouldn't bring it to work, but you can just make it kind of work in that way in your head. And in the end, when you look back, you can see, oh, wow, actually, I did all this stuff in the middle of the day and it didn't detract from my work day. You know what I mean? And, but it really requires that organization and dedication, because the second you're like, well, I can just do this and that. Oh, I'm going to run to the store and just grab this. 2 hours are gone. Your work, you may have left it 50% done and you don't remember where you left it. It's like you're in that sense, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And remote work gives you this flexibility.
It does, right? But it becomes our responsibility. Our flexibility Absolutely. Becomes our flexibility. I've read organizer coach type people talk about the importance of harnessing transitions, that there are natural kind of organic transition points in our day. Like you were saying, Julian, when you complete a project, or like when you, even certain like hours of the day can trigger natural organic transitions in your day. And if you try and time some of these flexibility tasks around natural transition points, maybe you can still, maintain that efficiency and maybe not have all that ramp up time you were talking about, German, to get back into a task, that 20-minute ramp up time.
I mean, a lot of people, you. And if you're going to, let's say, go to the store, but then waste a lot of time, it's probably best that you don't go to the store, or schedule it after you do, you get some work done. With that said, there's a lot of things that uh, you can do just to fix these particular things. Like, you want to avoid making these kind of mistakes early. Um, and even to the point where, I know this is going to sound counterproductive, but try to fix mistakes even over the making money. You're going to notice a lot of people that you're working with initially, and it could be friends, it could be family members who've invested. Um, you want to cut out people that don't work, and I don't mean they just don't do work. I mean, they're not going to work out in the future. It's very difficult to work with family. It's very difficult to work with friends. And this is from mistakes I've made. So
How do you tell, German?
it's you can't be as critical of your friends, and on the flip side, your family will be very critical of you, to where a professional will never say that to you, but your dad will. Your uncle definitely will. So, and they feel that they've got a huge investment, and it could be something paltry. Um, so avoid those mistakes. Cut those people out. It's going to break your business down the road, and it's going to be extremely difficult to remove them down the line, to the point where you could wreck the whole business trying to remove a partner. So, just another little tidbit.
Yeah, maybe some just immediate pain, but saving more pain down the
Yeah,
road.
absolutely.
Nip it in the bud if it's just not right. It's hard though. It's hard,
It's very
especially when we're talking about needing help,
right.
needing all hands on deck.
But you know the feeling. It's like, as you're working with these people, you always think, like, once we make money, everything's going to go away, everything's going to be fixed. It's not. It's going to be worse. So if you sense that this person's not working out, and it could be someone you love, just, it's better to break it to them early than, down the road, because then they feel like they've carried you, so you can't remove them. So it's just another one of those little things that you'll experience down the road.
Do you have experience with this, Julian?
Well, I mean, yeah, I would just want to say, to kind of piggyback off of German, I definitely have seen situations where you have founders, co-founders, even like a company I worked at had 3 co-founders, and they were all friends from college, smart guys working on algorithmic stablecoin, and one of them just wasn't, like, he wasn't in it. He did his job, but he wasn't really working. Like, maybe he was working 4 hours a day, and then his attitude wasn't really like what a founder should need, right? A founder should be able to, at all times, like, you may not know the right answer, but you're going to come up with an answer, or you're going to find out the answer, and you're going to deliver it, right? And, like, you're not going to go to sleep until you get that answer out, and then you go, oh, okay, like, and then next task for tomorrow type of thing, right? You need that kind of dedication. Otherwise, the company's never even going to get off the ground. And these two, the other 2 co-founders, they had a very, very hard time recognizing this, right? They were all close friends. They didn't want to give up on this idea on each other. And so I think initially they all raised about $3 million. The company was around for about a year and a half, and then it just fell apart. And the really the worst part was, the reason it fell apart was the one founder, the one that wasn't really invested like the other 2 were, his job was to raise the next funding round, and he just completely dropped the ball, and then the company had to shutter. And it was like a real shame, it was like really sad. So yeah, the being able to recognize who's in it and who's not, very early on, not only for founders and co-founders, but your first initial hires for employees, right? These are people that you may not take like the most technically competent or the most experienced, right? It's about the fire that's inside and how much dedication you're going to bring. And it doesn't matter if it's your friend or family or a stranger, but yeah, you need to be able to recognize that's a very important skill.
Yeah. We're talking about commitment, people who take responsibility, people who persevere and lead, even if they don't know exactly where they're going or what the answer is. And they can do it sustainably, right? They can do it over the long haul. They can anticipate what the company's next needs are. I mean, these are not easy things, right? And they're not things that anyone is expected to just know. But if you're going to succeed, you're going to either figure it out or you're going to find someone who has that kind of experience. You know, this episode is like very cathartic for me talking about these talking about and bringing these items like to light, but it's also a bit of a departure for us on the Toekenz podcast, where we're typically very focused on educating our audience on these new and emerging technologies in Web3. But obviously, entrepreneurship and startups is where this new technology is going to come to the fore, and where it's going to be the products produced from these startups that really tip these new technologies to mass adoption. Do you feel like any of these kind of entrepreneurial or startup or founder basics that we've discussed differ in the world of Web3?
Hmm. I mean, you still have to look at the basics, the build, measure, learn, adjust it. That feedback loop has to be observed. And I'm going to say this, customers don't know what they want. It's up to you to look at them, observe them, and then don't worry about what they say. Look at what they do. That'll tell you everything about your customer base. Because if you start asking customers, well, what do you guys want? It'll be 50 different, things. But if you go into this little loop where you're building it, then you measure it versus the customers, you'll learn something and just keep adjusting as you go. With that said, and I think we've discussed this, when your product is ready, you probably spent too much time. Get it out the door. Get your product don't try to polish every little thing. Release your product with all of its new features. It doesn't matter if it's something, high tech or, the newest set of, widgets. It doesn't matter. Get it out the door. The customers will tell you, it might be painful at first, but if you're fulfilling a need, they're going to want it, and they'll be happier that you got it to them sooner than later. And at that point, you could fix it in the field. So depending on what it is, of course.
I want to reiterate that German is not talking about any kind of security deployment issues. He means like
Right.
features,
Right.
features and
Right.
UI and designs and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But I
Right.
definitely want to agree. Yeah. I think especially in Web3, right? This is an emerging field. People honestly are not even sure what's capable, right? I've been working technically in the space for a couple of years. I've seen a lot of what like new innovations that are coming out, what people are excited for. And I can tell you right now, people have no idea of the future capability of the stuff we're building right now, right? ZK rollups. With all the layer 2 technologies, privacy, it's just, it's going to be wild, right? So when German says, yeah, let's build it, let's monitor how people use it, how they like it, but not necessarily listen to them directly because, who is this? Henry Ford. If I told people, oh my God, I'm messing up this quote. Sorry. Henry Ford said, if I gave the people what they wanted, they would have gotten faster horses. Do you know what I mean? So when you're dealing with like a brand new emerging technology like this, you really got to say, hey, this is my idea. I think it's good. I'm going to build it, and then we'll see what people, and if they like it, they like it, and then you just keep going.
Right? If like you said, if there's a need, if there's a product market fit, then they're going to let you know, no matter how maybe ugly the first iteration of your baby might be. I also think that this community or this industry is different because it's so community focused, and because there is such a we're in this together type attitude. You see this on Discord. I know that you both utilize that as, your community or where you go when you have questions, or um, when you're trying to work out a problem, or you find a new use case for blockchain technology, for example. Do you find, what kind of questions, or what do you need to do to be prepared to kind of enter into the world of Discord?
Well, honestly, you don't need much. You need a browser, and a good attitude. But honestly, the rabbit hole goes as deep as you want on Discord, right? I have had like really high level or even bantering, like trading or token kind of conversations in marketplace discords. But there's also I've been in the Flashbots Discord, which is a validation. It's well, now they're known for their censorship, but Ethereum validation service that is enforcing. It gets a little deep, but basically the point is making money from reordering transactions on the Ethereum blockchain, and going in there and doing some, like, asking some very very specific questions about fee sniping bots and how they're doing what they're doing. And people are more than willing. People with years and years of experience in this, which is something that has only existed for years and years, pretty much telling you up front all the industry secrets and telling you all this kind of stuff. It's there if you want it. And Discord is one of the most open. It's a bit messy, but open places to do it.
It seems like with even just a basic understanding of the fundamentals of blockchain, you can go in and spark a conversation about kind of anything. A new idea, a new take on an old idea, or even some, crazy deep specific things. Like I'm not even sure what an algorithmic stablecoin is. And but I'm sure I could go and, ask somebody about it, or try and get some insight about it, because there are those kinds of specific people with those expertise. You just got to find them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if let's just say, for a very practical takeaway for our listeners, what are kind of some of the fundamentals of blockchain that they can research on their own in order to go and start some of these kinds of conversations?
Uh, I mean, I'd start out with, you have an idea, right? You have an idea, and you're like, well, I want to find a way to make this work. Number one, does it need blockchain? That's the real question. There's a lot of startups out there. Your idea doesn't need blockchain. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to capture this new technology. Maybe you can make it fit in. Maybe you can't. Doesn't mean everything's built for blockchain, but there are things, now that we have it, there are some very cool applications. So the first thing I would look at is, what can blockchain give you? You don't need to know how it works, but what can I do? You can have a notion of like identity on a chain that is not attached to your financial identity or your personal identity. You could have it attached to your personal financial identity, and it's your choice. It's not like, oh, I mean, I was born here and then I got an ID, or I went to the bank and they gave me a card. This is like, I can choose to make these connections between each other. And this has a lot of far-reaching, implications for like social interactions between people, financial interactions between people. Maybe I want to do financial interactions, but I don't want people to know where I live, right? But I want the US government or the governing authority to know where everyone lives for safety, but just not my counterparty. Do you know what I mean? That's possible through blockchain. Being able to vote and marking the vote down, and being able to look into the past and say, did this person vote? Yes. And was it a valid vote? Yes. But being unable to tell what that vote is. This prevents a lot of corruption in voting and bribery, right? Because people can just do whatever they want. So knowing what is possible through blockchain is the first step, right? And that doesn't take any technical knowledge. You can just look that up. And then you see how that fits into your idea.
Anything you want to add to that, German?
No, that's actually fantastic. Just to piggyback off of what Julian has said, don't try to fit your idea onto the blockchain. Makes a lot of sense. Um, there's plenty of opportunities out there, but I'd say the biggest thing to do is to worry more about having a runway for these opportunities to land for your business. So just be ready. Be ready for an opportunity to land. It's your runway. Um, I could tell you a quick story. This was a startup that we had done for Graceland. So it was a photogrammetry, full color 3D printed bobblehead company that was a startup. Essentially a 3D photo booth. So we met with the reps from Graceland. This was I'd say 6 years ago at the IAPA show in Orlando. It's a huge attraction show. So think like indoor roller coasters, all these crazy attractions. So they put up all these booths, newly built visitor center in Graceland, because Elvis loved high tech, so they needed this put in. So there was these 3D sculpts and proofs being done. Black leather Elvis, eagle suit Elvis, the rhinestones, you know. And again, all of this high tech, but the users and the owners were bogged down internally arguing what pose, what color of the rhinestone, what hairstyle should be available. And this went on for 2 to 3 months. In the meantime, the client's plane is a holding pattern, circling around the runway until the client lost interest, went to a different airport. So, they missed their opportunities. It's these things that, looking back, it's the owners didn't agree. It was apparent right from the beginning, and you can fix these things, and you don't necessarily need blockchain. You just have to look to see what it is that your business will do, and then take it. Take that opportunity. Just be ready for they are going to come your way. If you're putting in the work, they will come your way. There will be lots of companies that'll knock on your door, and you just got to know when to grab hold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the adage? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes, very true.
Right? And you got to
Yep.
be ready to strike when
You
that
do.
opportunity presents itself.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Things move quickly in Web3. We've done a number of difficult but important pivots with the Toekenz business. And we are moments away at the precipice of releasing this app to our early access users. And I couldn't be more delighted, but I also couldn't be more scared and couldn't be more ready, to see the feedback, to see the real users' behavior on the app, and to take this moment, right? To take this opportunity to really get into the hands of users. It's all the things. It's all the feels getting a product out there. And I'm so grateful for both of you and being a part of this ride known as Toekenz.
Same here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, any final kind of takeaways for our listeners as we wrap up this episode and as we get back to work and prepping to release this app?
Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, since a lot of this conversation has been about startups and entrepreneurship and just maybe high-level stuff about how to approach going after an idea or a dream that you're having, I would say just three quick things. Figure out the skills you need to make it happen, and at least learn the preliminaries of them. 2, make sure that you make a plan for yourself, and I don't mean just a day-to-day plan, like a life plan. This is going to be the next 3 to 8 years of your life potentially. Make sure you know what you're getting into, But if you're serious, and this is point 3, you need to have dedication and basically bring that 100% that you have. And that doesn't mean you have to work 100% of the day, but you have to bring 100% of what you got to everything that you do. And if you keep these 3 things constantly rotating, right, this kind of self-education, dedication, and like rigidity with yourself, then eventually you'll succeed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is more for when you guys make it big time out there, all your listeners. So be a positive influence, mentor, repay people by sharing your knowledge, make yourself useful, master your craft, don't micromanage. But like Julian said, preparation, habits, diligence, work hard, try not to waste too much time, and you'll get there. You'll get there.
I love that. Thanks for those words of encouragement. I'm like taking them very personally myself. But it's so true. And I think that you both are examples of this. The discipline and the commitment, the altruism, the giving back. I've learned these things about both of you in not only your work, but your professional, but your personal lives. So thanks again for being a part of this ride and for being an inspiration to me. Thanks for joining this episode of the Toekenz Podcast. If our listeners would like to follow you or would like to connect with you after the fact, how do they find you?
Anyone can find me on Twitter at Julian Kocher, just like my name. So very easy to find. And I'm like, as you can imagine, I'm open to any kind of questions. I love to teach. I love education, whether it's Web3, programming, security, economics, anything for fun. Anything interesting, I'm in. So, yeah.
Yeah, same here. You can reach me at Twitter at techcommand.com or info@techcommand.com as well. Again, any kind of questions, if I could answer them, I'd be more than happy to. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks. And we love to hear from you at Toekenz or at Toekenz NFT, depending on what social media platform you use. You can always find Toekenz, and feel free to submit your questions or what interests you might have for future episodes of the Toekenz Podcast. Thanks for listening. And we're looking forward to having you be some of our first users in the early access version of Toekenz, made available really soon. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.